Welcome to the Tried It podcast, your proven pathway to a better copywriting business. I am one of your hosts, Sarah, and I am here with
Nicole. Hi, I'm the other face or the other side of the Tried It podcast. And today's a very exciting episode.
Today's episode is what we call our implementation episode. So that means it is the second part of a two-part series. So before you get stuck into this episode, I recommend going and listening to the first part, else the things that we talk about here are not going to make as much sense.
Right.
So on this episode, we are going to be discussing 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. Subtitled Time Management for Mortals. And what we do on the Tried It podcast is in the first part of all of our episodes, we read the book, we discuss it, we share our thoughts with each other, and we decide 3 things that we're going to try each to take from that book and apply to our own copywriting businesses, or perhaps even to our client work. And then we come back together and see how it's gone, which is what we're doing today.
Which is quite I would say almost an unhinged goal, or maybe an ambitious goal or a stretch. But alas, here we are. And this is our second season. So, that's a sign that we show up and commit. And, we are thrilled to have you with us.
Before we get doing those extra credit assignments.
Definitely. I call them the big projects that are like a business that don't really bring you any income. But, it's a passion project. I just want to say before we get into all the good stuff we have to share, please go ahead and, buy the book, download the book, pay for the book, support the writer. This is no way a replacement for the great content that Oliver Burkeman has put out or any of the other books we've read. So just a caveat before we get started.
Yes, an excellent reminder. Thank you, Nicole, because if these people weren't writing books, we wouldn't have a podcast. So it's really important to support the author, which is what we do. We buy each of us a copy of every book that we read on the podcast. So would love it if you could do the same. And I'll drop the link to buy the book in the show notes below.
Awesome. I'm wondering if we should maybe get stuck in with just a quick summary before we, get into what we implemented.
Exactly. I think that's a good idea.
So essentially, it's not your typical time management book. So if you're expecting kind of like this, which is what I was looking for, to be honest, as somebody who struggles with their time, if you're looking for this is how you're going to fix your time management problems and you're going to become a time efficient person, this is not that book. I would say that there are magical gems in it. It's more of a philosophical take, and it's more inviting you to take a step back, look at your life, look at how you're using time, and think about your relationship to time, I would say. What do you think, Sarah?
I think if we just unpack the title, as you said, it is a lot about thinking about time in the scale of your life, because I don't know where he got the stats from, but apparently the average human lifespan is about 80 years, which translates to roughly 4,000 weeks. So
right.
You arrive on this earth, somebody gives you a big packet of 4,000 weeks and almost no instructions about how to spend them in a way that's meaningful. You're left to figure that out for yourself, which is essentially what he's doing in the book. And as you say, Nicole, he doesn't tell you what you should be doing. He gives you, I guess, different parameters to think about how to use your time, what's meaningful for you, how to achieve the things that you want to achieve. But it's not as if you flip to the back of the book and then you find some sort of daily, weekly, monthly planner that tells you how to do this.
Right. And you really nailed it there. I think just taking the title of the book, it's actually a terrifying concept. Think about it. You only have 4,000 weeks. That's not a lot of time when you think about it. So it really is philosophical and refreshing and a different way of thinking about time, kind of humbling. What I do like is that I feel like a lot of it wasn't a very judgmental book. Even though it's not telling you what to do and it provides guardrails or frameworks for thinking, it doesn't feel judgmental. And as somebody who procrastinates a lot, he does give room for procrastination. He does give room for, don't just say yes to things or don't just take on more because then you'll be overwhelmed and you're actually defeating the purpose. Like there's a kind of a thoughtfulness, which I really like.
Yes, he really advocates for things like rest time, for letting go of things, for not overcommitting, which is nice because set against the backdrop of traditional time management, those sorts of books would, maybe give you advice about waking up earlier or taking shorter lunch breaks, or, what are the things that you can miss out on to make something else happen. And Burkman, okay, he does talk about missing out on things so that you can make space in your life for more important things, but he's not going to tell you that getting up at 4:45 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. is the future. Even the thought of it, my God.
No, I mean, it's a horrible way to live, Why spend your 4,000 weeks like that?
I would say, and it's been on my mind since listening to our last episode and talking now, I think that the philosophical approach of the book it's really interesting, and I think that that's what makes it stand out from other books that cover this topic. But it's also a little bit nebulous, so it's quite hard to describe. And I feel as if we're kind of bouncing around and talking about concepts, but I would say in a way we're actually summarizing the book quite accurately, in that it is this sort of philosophical journey. So if you're listening to this thinking, well, I don't really understand the book, but I'm interested, this is where, again, I would encourage you to go and read the book, because I think it'll make more sense. I feel like we're capturing the book's general vibe.
Yeah,
but it's hard to translate it to some sort of point by point this then that, because it's more of an invitation to you to open your mind to considering different possibilities for time.
Right. And like, bottom line, in this book there is no step by step. There is no save time by doing this, become a productivity guru by embracing this. There is none of that. He is actually a recovering productivity guru himself. But I do think, like, if you want to be more thoughtful about this journey called life, and like how you're using your time and this one precious wild life that you have, I think this is a good book, a good place to start. I don't know, like, if you're like someone like me who finds yourself often time strapped and unfortunately often doing things at the last minute despite all your best intentions. I don't know if this is the book for you. Like, maybe it will help you rethink systems in your life that aren't working. Maybe. We'll talk about that later, I guess. But it's definitely a food for thought. And in preparing for this episode, I just did some quick, Googling about Oliver Burkeman. He has a newsletter called The Imperfectionist, which I actually really liked the title of, and like, it just spoke to me. Something about that giving you permission to be imperfect. And he talks about time management and writing and things like that. So I do recommend that as well.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm going to, I'll drop the link for that in the show notes as well. And I will subscribe myself.
And he also has a new book, Meditations for Immortals or something, which I haven't read and I haven't that, but he has that as well. So, if you're into this and this is what you feel like resonates with you, maybe check those out as well. I'm in no way affiliated with him, by the way. I just want to say that, just putting that out there. Just putting that out there.
Nicole's getting that sweet commission, guys.
Yeah, guys. But Sarah, like, I'm curious, because there's been quite a gap between when we recorded our first episode and now. I'm curious, like, if you felt like, not specifically implementation tasks, but like if you felt a shift in how you think about time, how you use time, if you become more thoughtful or not. Like, no pressure, and there are no right or wrong answers.
I think I wanted to mention that too, that we have left quite a long time in between recording the first episode and and this episode now, to kind of lift the lid on how we do the podcast. For books that are more focused on copywriting techniques, we tend to leave 2 to 3 weeks in between recording episodes. But one of the big lessons that I took from season 1 of the podcast was that when we're doing books that are more about business or kind of almost personal management, we need to give ourselves time to implement our implementation points, because the the changes that you're looking for will take longer to really root in your life and for you to see what kind of effect, positive or negative, they're having. So I would say it's been maybe 3 months since we recorded that episode, which almost feels like a lifetime ago, especially in terms of the news cycle. There's been a universe from then to now. So what changes have I seen since then? I think I will get into more detail later, but I feel like something with the book's philosophy has kind of resonated in my life, but it's hard to put that down to specific things. So again, the book is kind of a vibe book, and I like the vibe, and I found myself kind of my mind's going back to it, or I've been in conversations with, friends, family, totally unrelated to podcasting, and I've referred to it. But I haven't. It's such a broad book. And you're talking about changing a huge thing, your life, your approach to how you live your life. That even with the 3 months that we've left between recording to implement, it's difficult for me to point at specific things and be like, I've done this because I read 4,000 Weeks. How's that been for you, Nicole?
So I just want to say I loved your answer, because I think that meshes very well with exactly what we explained about this book. There is no, like, if I take a step back and reflect on the other books we've read, it's easier to see like how I could implement, say, something like Smart Brevity or Anne Handley's book, Everybody Writes. Like, there's something actionable. This, as you said, is much more philosophical. So it's harder to see the results or where you implement it. But I agree with you. Like, I think on some level, I like to think some of the philosophy penetrated aspects of my life. I will confess that, like, I've never been good at managing time. I'm still not good at managing time. But I am going through shifts in my life and my business. And I think it's, like I said this to Sarah off the podcast before, and I'll share it with you guys here. I think it's part of the reason is because of all the books we've been reading. And I think one of this book also, reflecting on these questions and being more thoughtful about the fact that I'm not going to be here forever. And I do want to do something meaningful. And I'm aware that I'm not going to change the world. But I do think something of this philosophy has entered into how I want to show up in the world. I do
think, and again, we will get into our implementation points, but I really like his non-judgmental approach, which goes with what you're saying, Nicole, that he's not saying that you have to change the world. I love that he's talking about time management, not in service of changing the world, but doing things that are meaningful to you, and that if you can change your life such that you make yourself a happy person who's kind of grounded, connected to others, even if you do that by finding your life's purpose in turning lollipop sticks into miniature figurines, you almost lead the way by inspiring others. And something that I've noticed more and more is that people do put pressure on themselves to change things. And obviously there are so many things in the world that we can legitimately be concerned about today. And I'm not saying that we all give up, but I don't think it's down to each one of us to be the change maker. You can make changes in your life, but am I going to be the one who invents this amazing new biofuel that cuts climate change tomorrow? No, regrettably,
you never know.
Absolutely,
you never know,
not.
Sarah. You never know.
Niche reference, but have you seen the episode of The Office US? Have you seen The Office US?
But it's a while back. Like I probably won't remember a specific reference.
Well, there's a bit where the boss, Michael Scott, he's having this sort of breakdown, and he's like, oh, there's poverty, and there's terrorists and stuff, and there's all these bad things in the world, and I can't do anything about it. And and then Pam says to him, but there are other people working on that, Michael, other better people. And I feel like that all the time. And I'm like, maybe my life's purpose is just to kind of like clear the way so they've got room to do their work. And once they've done their work, I'll be like, neat, I'm with you.
It's beautiful. That's very, very beautiful.
I can't believe we've made it all the way to season 2. We've only just had our first Office reference.
I know. It's such a good show. How is it even? Yeah.
I know. Obviously, I will drop the link to that episode in the show notes. But yes, so going back to Burkman, he doesn't say that you have to be that person. I guess he's kind of saying show up for the people around you in an authentic way, although that sounds a bit too Instagram quotey, and maybe it's not an accurate resume of what he said.
Well, and I think it's that, and I think it's also like, it's okay. It's okay if you just want to live, I don't want to say a small life, but like a life where you focus on what for you is important, or your own little garden or life or whatever brings you joy. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, which is also like nice, It's not about making yourself smaller, but it's about like maybe embracing, this sounds very Instagrammy, but like embracing where you are and who you are. What I also got from this is I like that, like the things we're chasing, like, let's say a business, like you wake up in the morning and like you get stuck into work and it's like you're chasing, I always feel like I'm chasing something, either clients or projects or whatever. And like there's this goal, like the goal is like income, and that's like the KPI, like I'm measuring, and if you don't make the income, you're not successful. And lately I've had some unpleasant interactions with clients, and it's really affected me emotionally, and it made me reflect on things, and it made me reflect on how income shouldn't be, for me personally, the biggest KPI. Like, it's obviously important. And I've been thinking about how, there's radical acceptance. I've been thinking I want to write a LinkedIn post about radical kindness in business, and how like a book about time management brought me to this conclusion, like the need for radical kindness, because life is short and I don't want to work with unpleasant people.
I think that's a really important point. Like, I'm sorry that you've had bad client interactions. Nobody wants that. And as a freelancer, I think we've all had an experience like that, and sometimes you feel kind of stuck in that relationship with that client because you need the money, which really sucks. I love the idea of having that as not exactly a KPI, but maybe like a guiding light in your business. Like, I will drop you if I don't want to work with you because I don't think that you're kind enough. I don't think that you're a nice enough person to me, and I'd rather be spending my working hours with people who value me and I value them, rather than people who pay me money but treat me like something you'd rather wipe off your shoe.
It's true. And like it even pushed me over the edge to the point that I even thought of creating like a kind of onboarding process or application where one of the things you have to fill in is not how kind you are, but that I won't work, making it very clear that I won't work with certain kinds of people, which I know sounds crazy. But again, to me, it comes back to the core of this book, that I'm here for a limited time. If I look at what's important to me, it's very important for me that the kind of people I work with are kind. Like that's at my core. And I kind of feel like the book helped me see that maybe I'm chasing the wrong things.
I think also the thing about those negative interactions is it's not just the interaction in the moment, it's that you take that with you and it sticks in your mind. And okay, maybe there are people who can have negative experiences with clients and they just wipe it from their brain and move on. Kudos to them. But I'm the kind of person that turns that over and over and thinks, oh, maybe if I'd said this, or what if I'd done that? So it has a longer impact on you than just like a bad client call.
Right. And I think like you may be listening to this and thinking like, what are these people talking about? This isn't therapy. But I do think it's related to time management, because if you start off with, I want to be more efficient, I want to use my time, my 4,000 weeks efficiently, wisely, so I'll be happy. Who has time for these kind of people and these kind of interactions?
So shall we move on to our implementation points?
Yes, let's do it. You want to kick it off? Should I kick it off?
I will kick it off. Almost because I feel like I want to get it over with. Which I don't know if that's a very Oliver Burkeman approved stance, but that's how I feel. So my implementation points, and I'm perhaps not saying them in the same order as I said them in the last episode, but again, we're just going to roll with it. Was paying myself first in time, which refers to obviously a concept from the book where Oliver Burkeman says that if you have a sort of passion project, you shouldn't be squeezing it in around the edges. That should actually be your top priority. If it's something that you really want to do or really want to make happen, you do that and then other things after it. So for a freelancer, that might be that you're busy working on your podcast like us, and then put your client work after that. I think I've actually been doing okay with that. Perhaps it's the one that's gone the best for me to pay myself first in time. Unfortunately, it's also come because I've had a dip in client work. So I've had fewer demands on my time, which is not great financially, but it's meant that I've been able to put more time into the podcast and into developing this new offer that I'm working on. And I've started a course which is helping me with the new offer. So those are things that I'm really adding kind of to the top of my to-do list every week. I think it does feel good to make those your priority. In a way, it's almost a bit frightening because it feels like you have so much control. Whereas it made me think, if you're the kind of person who's very busy cramming things in left, right, and center, on the one hand, that's like control because you're like, yeah, I can do it all, but it's also ceding control because you're giving a lot of your time and energy and focus, and kind of slowing down and choosing one thing above others and not trying to cram everything in all at the same time. That's maybe more of a mastery form of control. So I don't know if I have anything concrete to say about what I've achieved with that, except that season 2 of the podcast is well underway, and I have fleshed out my new offer more. I've not launched it yet, but so yeah, incremental progress. And would I carry on doing this when I get busier with client work? I think I will try and keep this approach of paying myself first in time. I mean, I tend to look at my time over the course of a week, not quite day by day. So paying myself first in time might not mean literally the first, block of every single day is doing stuff for me. But across the course of the week, it's definitely making space for the things that are meta goals.
I think it's, first of all, I think you should pat yourself on the back. I think it's a huge win. Because I think there's something scary about this. And my approach is always if I don't have work, to find more work. If I don't have this, do the work. And obviously what you're doing will lead to that. But it's a very intentional and very brave move, I feel, what you're doing. And I think that's worth celebrating. I think it's commendable. I don't think it's easy. I think it sounds very easy.
Like I said, it's been easier because I haven't had as many things competing with my time. So I think it'll be a focus that I'll have to change or adjust when the work comes back and I get busier. But I would say, yeah, it has helped me to kind of keep an eye on the horizon and the things that are important to me beyond just, doing this project for this client, tick off. I get satisfaction from that, but really, does that really enrich me? Does that bring me closer to the business and the life that I want? Probably not.
That's the thing. I feel like it's almost like a mentality checklist, doing this, because it's exactly what you said. Does this bring me closer to the business I want? Does this bring me closer to the life I want? It's a mentality checklist.
Yeah. Yeah. Second implementation point, sort of related to that, you gave me a very nice springboard for that. It was my procrastination. So Burkman talks about being curious about your procrastination and how it is, to use his phrase, manipulating the present moment, as in if you're procrastinating, it's perhaps because you feel some level of discomfort about what you're doing right now or the situation that you're in, and you're trying to just sort of distract yourself with something else. So the things that I've been working on, long term, they're great, but short term, they do make me uncomfortable. And because I've been uncomfortable, I've been procrastinating a lot. So it's been sort of the classic 1 step forward, 2 steps back type thing, or 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I don't know.
Yeah, procrastination is a hard one. It's very difficult.
I would say Burkman's thoughts on procrastination have brought me more awareness to my own procrastination and how I use procrastination throughout the day. But I've not yet broken the habit. And again, he doesn't tell you how to break habits because it's not a how-to book. So perhaps it's unrealistic of me to expect that I would just read one book and suddenly never procrastinate again. I don't think that that's how people work, really. So if you're saying your awareness is halfway to solving the problem, then I'm halfway there. And I'm now perhaps just uncomfortably aware of my procrastination.
Well, this is, I think we're all guilty of this. And I think you're right. Like, awareness is key. Once you're aware why you're doing something, maybe you're more likely to stop it or change it.
I mean, this is slightly a side thing. I don't know how Burkman would feel about this. But the things that I procrastinate with, it's stuff that I don't really even care about. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time doing, stupid BuzzFeed quizzes online to find out like my ideal lasagna filling? Like, this is doing nothing for me in terms of satisfaction, but it's helping me to not think about the thing that I really should be thinking about. For example, how much do I want to charge for my new offer, or sending out that first cold pitch or whatever.
Right. Look, that's the thing. He talks about like different types of procrastination, and there's like positive procrastination. So like maybe, but I think most of us don't procrastinate positively. I think that's the thing. Very few people are like, I'm gonna procrastinate by listening to a TED talk.
Yeah.
Like I don't think many people do that. So don't beat yourself up, Sarah.
Or reading, I don't know, the complete published works of Charles Dickens or something like that. Like that would be nice.
It would be amazing, but no.
Yeah, no, it's the stupid BuzzFeed quizzes for me. And my last implementation point was related to Burkman's thought about choosing uncomfortable enlargement. And in our last episode, we discussed, for me, choosing doing something uncomfortable every single week. And have I done this consistently? Mea culpa, not exactly. I think I've kind of bunched up different experiences and tried out different things since we recorded that episode. One thing that springs to mind, and maybe you wouldn't call this uncomfortable, and it wasn't uncomfortable, but I had a life change in that I spent a month in Australia over like Christmas and New Year, and that's not, again, it wasn't uncomfortable. I'm very fortunate to have done that, but like that kind of break in the routine. I'm somebody who quite likes routine, stability. So this was like, it was very different for me. It was pleasant. It was a really great experience. But it was a kind of a challenge to myself in terms of just like organizing myself, having everything like lined up to go, just going, like leaving my flat, like shutting everything up, and then also coming back and starting work again. So that, I think, was it. I don't know, does that count as an uncomfortable experience? I feel like I'm just clutching at straws here.
No, I think it does count as an uncomfortable experience. I think that there's elements of growth there. Really, I do. In some ways, you're jumping into the unknown. Like, even if you had plans, like there are things that you didn't know that probably unfolded, or I don't know. There is an element of discomfort there.
Yeah, I think all in all, this kind of choosing discomfort or uncomfortable enlargements, it's a really good principle. I have found for me personally, I need to be in a certain frame of mind to do it, because there are times where I find things like that easier and times where I'm just like, no, I can't. So I think I'm still at the stage of working on that mindset more of I'm ready to accept and allow different things to come into my life. And hopefully with that, in some big circuitous way, it'll make the discomfort easier to accept or maybe even embrace. So those are my implementation points done. I think it's been a difficult book to integrate into my life. Maybe it's one, perhaps I'm just having this idea now. Maybe we check in like almost like a year from now and see what we've done or how we're still thinking about it, because it's such a big book, almost not big in terms of length, but big in terms of meaty subject material, that I mean, or we check in at the when we're both 80. Just feel like, did you do it? I don't know if I did it. I'm on my 3,999th week.
I don't know about the 80 thing, but like definitely in a year. I think that's fabulous. It's a great idea. Really, it's a great idea.
Okay, spontaneous idea recorded on the podcast is going to happen.
And I want to just add something, just to build on what you said about discomfort. I think that there's actually more discomfort in your life than you realize. I think in some ways this podcast for both of us is an element of discomfort. Like, we love it. I mean, I love it. I'm sure you love it. It's, we wouldn't do it otherwise, but there is something uncomfortable about, it's growing in a way that it's not always easy, like to get on here and to discuss books. It's great and it's fun, but so I think that there might be
and we have to listen to the sound of our own voices recorded, which
is torture.
Awful. It's human torture.
Yeah. And listen, I want to meet the person who likes the sound of their own voice, really.
I think, isn't he currently president of the United States?
That's true.
So over to you, Nicole. I have rambled a bit about my implementation points, but I would like to hear a recap of yours and hear how it's gone for you.
Sure. I just want to say also, like, well done, Sarah. I think you did a great job. So,
buddy.
So my 3 in no particular order. So one was to buy a kind of jar and to every day with my family write down one thing that we did in that day that we're grateful for. So it could be anything. It could be, a great meal. It could be someone told us a joke. Someone was kind. Anything. And this isn't directly from the book. Like, he doesn't, as Sarah and I have mentioned throughout this episode, like, there's no real actionable step-by-step steps in the book. But for me, it was kind of like the essence of like taking stock of things and being more thoughtful and like really trying to understand the kind of life you want and like the things that you want to work towards. And like, I thought it would be useful. I tried to kind of like Oliver Burkeman my family. I have 3 kids and husband and, snake and a dog.
So sweet.
Yeah. So I would like to put, if with your permission, in the show notes, like the picture of our jar, which is now full. Yes. Of all these colorful post-it notes. So it's really nice. And
so what do you do once you've submitted the post-it note to the jar?
We've stopped it just because the jar got full, and like I kind of like skipped the step. I didn't know what to do with all the post-it notes. Like, maybe we'll do it this week. Like, we need to have like some sort of ceremony where we read them, because we didn't read them. It was kind of like we each wrote down something, folded it, and put it in the jar. But I think it was a very beautiful and meaningful experience, because it forces you to like look at your day differently and look at your time differently, and to kind of stop and think, like, even if you had the worst day possible, there's something small that happened that you're probably grateful for, that probably made your day. And I found like my 8-year-old kind of like, nothing happened today. And like I would help him go through his day, and we'd find something and we'd write it down. So I do think it's valuable. As I said, we stopped because the jar is full, which is not a good reason to stop. So we need to go back to it. I really want to go back to it.
That sounds so sweet. Yeah, I think it would be nice to have some sort of ritual of opening the jar and going through it, whether that's on a special day, such as a significant holiday, or just, the jar's full, let's do it. Because you've sort of got an open loop, and then you like close it, I guess, by reading the...
Yeah. Like I think you need to. And then I thought of maybe framing them, like maybe putting them in a frame. like something. Burning them feels a bit harsh. Like that feels like the wrong energy, like we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I want to like.
Okay, in my mind, I'm seeing some beautiful, like, kind of mosaic tile thing, as in, like, that they're, not necessarily even so that you can read them, but just, like, folded up and origamied into,
and like framed on our wall with, like, our pictures. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel this, like, I'm sure we all do, like, life just goes so quickly, and, like, if we don't hold on to, like, the small moments, they just go, So like it really helped me to see my time and my days differently. So I thought it was really valuable.
It reminds me of, especially what you were saying about your 8-year-old, that one of the podcasts that I listen to, she has a really nice message about not everything will be okay, because let's face it, everything won't be okay. But she says it will be okay. Like, there will be something that's okay, even in just the really dark, horrible, difficult times. There's going to be some tiny little thing that you can take from that, even if it's just that you have got, like, a comfy mattress to lie on as you're curled up in a ball of despair, and helping your brain to, like, draw attention to those things is important.
Yeah. And I think it's also like a different lens for seeing your life. It's like, as you said, things are hard, but within all of this complexity and difficulty, there's some good. So that was that, which I think was a success. And like, I like the fact that I managed to bring our podcast into my family. I will confess, my husband hasn't listened to our podcast, which really upsets me. He's a lawyer. He's not a copywriter. So, maybe we don't have to hate him. But still, you know what I'm saying? He should be listening. I don't know. Anyway, so I managed to influence him.
Do you want me to send him the episode? Should we get him to subscribe?
I've said it to him, and the last time I was working on something, because we have some exciting things coming up, which we'll tell you about at the end. I was working on something last night, and I called him over to have a look what he thinks, and he's like, "Oh, you have a website for the podcast?" Like, anyway, so I was able to Oliver Burkeman my family slightly, which really made me proud of our podcast and everything. So that's the first one. The second one was quite ambitious. I wanted to, so at the end of Oliver Burkeman's book, he has these 5 questions to reflect on, like, essentially, like, where, like, questions about, like, your life and how you want it to look. Things like, I'll just read some of them. So, for example, like, where in your life or your work are you pursuing comfort when what's called for is a little discomfort? Really great question. Really makes you uncomfortable, forces you to grow. Are you holding yourself to or judging yourself by standards of productivity or performance that are impossible to meet? That's great. The permission to be imperfect, to kind of live by your own standards, by not have to meet these imperfect standards of productivity. Another one, in what ways have you yet to accept the fact that you are who you are and not the person you ought to be? So uncomfortable, kind of like soul-searching questions. I didn't do it every day. I did do it. I would say that on average, like once a week or so.
So just to clarify, were you kind of journaling on these questions, just reflecting on them?
Yeah. So I would write down the question and I would write down my answer. And I'll be very honest, like in the beginning, a lot of the time my answer was like, I need to think about this. Like, that's honestly what I wrote. It's like, I need to think about this. Like, for example, his 5th question, how would you spend your day differently if you didn't care so much about seeing your actions to fruition, which for me was a very hard one, because I was like, well, I'm working because I needed an income. So if I didn't care that my actions would come to fruition, would I be doing this? Can I even answer this question? Like, am I allowed to? Like, it felt like very philosophical.
That's a really deep one. Yeah, I am kind of sitting in silence being like, whoa, even though I read the book, I don't know, maybe I forgot that question or something, but yeah, it's a biggie.
It's big and it's uncomfortable. And the thing about it is, like, I can't tell you, I think, like we started off the episode, like, I don't have a specific win. I do feel it was a valuable exercise in that, like, even though I'm a writer, the irony is I find journaling very difficult, because I sometimes have, like, journaling constipation. Like, when it comes to personal emotional stuff, like, I can write on a computer and I can just vomit stuff out. But when it comes to, like, writing with a pen and on paper, and it's like on paper, I feel like it needs to be perfect. And I feel like I need to have these perfectly formulated ideas, which flies in the face of journaling. I know that. and also flies in the face of this exercise. So it was a lot of like me trying to like relax and like, be thoughtful and connect with myself. And like I tried to do it before work, which was also like a mindset shift for me, because I'm used to like my kids go to school, I have breakfast and I start working. Like it's regimental, like rush. And so stopping to like reflect was also difficult. I would like to continue with it. I think I'll probably step it down though. Maybe it's like once a week. I think that's a better, more loving cadence as opposed to every day, which feels a bit brutal. And my last point on this, I do feel that, like, as I've mentioned a few times, I do feel that like my business, I'm pivoting my business, which I'll share more about in other episodes. And I do feel that these questions are a big part of it, because I'm really trying to be thoughtful about not just income, but about the kind of business I want and how I show up and like what I actually bring to clients. And for so many years, I've been writing, but it's always been what is going to bring me income. And I go with that as opposed to what do I really want to do.
Do you think there's one of those questions in particular that's been more helpful than the others? Or do you think just the whole exercise and the kind of practice that goes around the exercise has helped you?
I think the first question, actually. So like the first question is about like where in your life is there comfort, too much comfort, when what's actually called for is a little discomfort. I think that's a really good question. And I think everyone can benefit from that, because as cliche as it is, I think we grow from discomfort. And I think that I've allowed myself to get comfortable in a lot of things with my life and my business. Like I'll give a stupid example, not related to work. Like every day I'm like, I'm going to go swim. Like I have a membership at a pool. Like I love swimming. I have everything I need. I have, usually like I have excuses. Like I don't have the costume. I don't have this. I have everything I need. I just never make it because it feels uncomfortable. Like it feels uncomfortable for me. So I don't do it. So that's a good example, and like identifying those areas is often like where we need to grow, I think. Anyway, my third and final implementation was basically I wanted to pay myself first as well. And I've had this dream of writing a fiction book. So I did start, and I had like very good intention. No, I had very good intentions. And then I kind of fell off the wagon and didn't continue, because I got busy with client work. I'll be honest, I got busy with work and life, and it felt
yourself some time.
Yeah, but it felt like, that's the thing. Like I wanted to talk about, like it felt very scary, like saying I have a deadline, but I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, which sounds ridiculous, right? But when you're stressed for time, to sit there for 20 minutes and write, I don't know. It just so. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes, especially if it's writing that's just for you, not for client work. Yeah.
But then it's kind of like circular, right? Like it all connects. So this connects to the questions. Like if I want to live a life where I am a writer, or where I have this kind of creative fulfillment, that I need to make it a priority as opposed to chasing income. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I will conclude my speech by saying that I do think it's valuable. I do think that if you're growing your business, I wouldn't say it's good for maybe new copywriters. Like I think if you've just started copywriting, you're trying to figure things out, I don't know if this is the book for you. I think this is more like you have a business, you have some clients, and you're trying to like, what do you think, Sarah? That's like who I visualize this book for.
I think, well, that's our audience, really, kind of copywriters who've got a little bit of experience, but don't quite know how to kind of break through or get things together to help move up to the next level, whatever that is. When I was thinking about it before we started recording, I was kind of thinking maybe this just isn't the book for self-employed people, because when he's talking about priorities and stuff and getting rid of middling priorities and doing linear tasks and all those kinds of things, the nature of being a business owner means that you're doing, or a solopreneur, as many of us are, means that you're doing basically all of it yourself. I don't have a VA. I do all my own taxes. I do my own IT support. Like I do everything for the business. And that means that by its very nature, I'm doing all these things all the time, and I feel like I'm always pulled in all these different directions. And I was kind of thinking, so this book just isn't helpful. But actually, maybe it is helpful, at least to kind of take the pressure off you, to recognize that this is certainly how things are at the moment, and especially if you're financially not in the position to start outsourcing stuff. I feel like I've got a foot in either camp, as it were, that either it's not the book for kind of solopreneur people because it's just going to it's not going to give you any helpful advice, but maybe it is exactly the right book because it's going to at least give you a different perspective on how you spend your time, both working on the business and, just existing in the rest of your life, so that you can gradually kind of start to tweak levers to make things move closer to the direction that you want them to be.
So I really liked what you said. I thought it was very interesting. But I kind of disagree because I think that a lot of freelancers, there's something intentional about the decision to be a freelancer. And I think that vibes with this book. Like, this book to me is about like intentionality and about taking charge of, like, not necessarily your life, but like why you're doing the things you're doing. And like, to be a freelancer, it's about income, but that's a statement. No? Like, it's saying to the world, like, I don't want the safety of in-house income, or for any other reasons, whatever they are. This is the path I've taken. It's like a flag to the world. No? So isn't that intentional? Isn't it like claiming something?
It's true. And perhaps even as a freelancer, okay, yes, you are pulled in a lot of different directions at once with a lot of things to keep an eye on. But perhaps we do have, in a way, more control over our lives than somebody who has quite a rigid, 9-to-5 job. But we do, in a way, have more control over our time. We've just got other different things to do with our time, like an in-house copywriter. There's no way that they would be sitting down to sort out their business accounts and do the company social media and, try and like buy a new monitor and a new office chair. Like, that's crazy talk. Yeah.
No, it actually is. Like, when you break down what we do in a day or what we're supposed to do in a day, it's insane.
Overall, point taken, Nicole. I think it is perhaps the book for freelancers who are ready to be challenged in thinking about how they spend time at work and how they run their business, but it's not the book for freelancers who are looking for answers. Right. It's just going to give you some signposts so that you can start choosing the next part of your journey that you're going to walk down.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a good summary.
Yeah. I quite like how I said that, so I feel like we should end there.
I agree. And end on a high note. Leave him wanting more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the high note, whilst we're still on the high note, maybe we'll talk about our membership.
Yes.
Yes.
The membership.
The membership. The wonderful membership. Which, I mean, we'll still love you even if you don't join. But it's a great place to hang out and to work on your copy chops. And it's basically in 13 minutes a day, you can become a better copywriter, not by reading or thinking, but by doing, which is the shift. And what it is basically every Tuesday, you receive an email with actionable insights and implementation tasks based on all the books we've read to work on your copywriting business and your copywriting skills. And so basically, it's like having one of these great copywriters, not us, but like one of the great copywriters as your copywriting coach, essentially.
It is. So members will get that email with the exercises. You can also, as a member, contact Nicole or I by email and pick our brains, and we'll get back to you. And also, members get to vote on books that we may include on future episodes of the Tried It podcast. So if you have a book about copywriting, business, ownership, marketing, something in that sphere that's on your shelf that you have read and really want to discuss, or you bought and maybe started it but didn't get that far, but want that kind of extra boost of motivation, you'll be able to vote on it, and maybe we'll turn it into an episode that'll help you to kind of move through that book with us and to take the most of it to apply back to your business. So that's what you get if you join us over at the Tried It membership. You can find out more about that by visiting our website with the link below. And if you're in a generous mood and you feel like helping us out but don't want to become a member, you can help us by subscribing to the podcast or recommending us to a little copy friend of yours,
which we would really love and appreciate. And really, like if you don't want to do either of those, we still love you, and we would just love to hear from you. You know, if something in the episode resonated with you, you disagreed very strongly, we would love to hear from you. I mean, please be kind. We're sensitive souls.
Again, kind is important.
But yes, kindness, radical kindness. It's gonna make us a thing. Maybe I'll print some merch.
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for listening, and catch us on the next episode. See you there.
Bye.
Bye.